Welcome everyone to the game between the world champion Domaraju Gukesh taking on Nihal Sarin. Now this is the second day of the World Blitz Championships 2025. Day 1 ended with 13 games being played and Gukesh scored 8.5 points just like Nihal. You can see him just adjusting his pieces. Day 2 will be very important. If he manages to get on a hot streak, he can make it to the top 4. Now what's interesting between this pairing of Gukesh, who's just by the way meditating and feeling a bit relaxed, is that his opponent Nihal Sarin is currently working. There you see a handshake and the clock starts. He's currently working with Vishnu Prasanna, and Vishnu was the trainer, the long-time trainer of Gukesh. Nihal arrives and asks Gukesh to start the clock. He lets his time run by. And this, dear friends, is the ChessBase mobile app recap of the day. Get the app, it's completely free. Knight to f3, d5, b3 played here by Nihal, and Gukesh gets into a bit of a thought, plays his bishop out to f5, and Nihal puts his bishop on b2. This is kind of a clash of styles, I must say, because Gukesh is very creative, fighting, Nihal very positional. Castles, pawn to c6 and d3 played. He brings his bishop out, knight to d2 with the idea of pushing his pawn to e4, and now he pushes his pawn to c4. Black castles, a3 and a5. He brings his rook to a2, putting the queen on this long diagonal. Bishop h7, and there a typical idea here. Just look at this. It looks a bit weird, but this is there, and then you want to play bishop c3 and b4. Gukesh pauses because this seems like something that Nihal has done several times. He plays his pawn to b5. He puts pressure on the c4 pawn to take a decision. Do you want to take here? Do you want to take here? Both options are possible. Nihal says, I'll wait. Queen b6. This tension is quite intense, and Nihal decides to dissolve it by taking the pawn. Pawn takes pawn. Now black has more space, but white, somehow his pieces are very nicely positioned. You can see them controlling the dark squares. Bishop goes to d4. Queen comes back, and rook c2 there. Oh my goodness. What a way to transfer the rook from a1 to a2 to c2, and black's position. White is nicely developed. Knight jumps into e5, and at some point maybe you want e4 to activate this bishop. Time wise, both players have roughly the same amount of time on the clock, and Gukesh now in some thought how to play, because Nihal is super solid. He takes rook c8. And do you trade the rooks? Do you keep them on the board? He takes it. Queen c8 played. And I guess Nihal wants to take here on d7, because if you take back with the knight, the g7 pawn is hanging. So you have to take it with the queen here. Pauses a bit here. Queen takes d7, and then the c file is open, so white can take control of it with something like queen c1. He goes queen c3, so that if bishop takes here, you can take the a5 pawn. Nihal has some decisions to make after b4. Pawn takes pawn, and do you take with the pawn here? Do you take with the bishop? Gukesh decides to take with the bishop here on b4. And Nihal Sarin can play his queen to b2. He keeps the queen on the c file. He plays queen c1, keeping the knight defended. And knight to e8, defending the pawn on g7, knight f3, f6. I love this. Whoa, Nice move by Gukesh, blunting the bishop, but bishop h3 was so unexpected. Now hassling black on the weakness of e6. Gukesh gets the knight to d6. He wants to put the bishop on f5 and trade it off. In a way, black position seems to have slightly more potential if you think about it. Bishop f5, then you take, I go e5, maybe d4, just expanding in the center. And Nihal has now more time on the clock. 1 minute 10 seconds. In fact, he's 30 seconds lower. He had it more, but he's been thinking for a long time. Bishop b6 played. I wonder what's on his mind. He may want to go knight d4 here, but I think it's time for Gukesh to play bishop f5. There's also another idea to go knight to b5. He goes bishop f5 and very quickly bg2 played. Not a good move by Nihal. He should have taken here, but bg2 and now e5. Suddenly Gukesh has huge space in the center, and this bishop feeling a bit misplaced. d4 coming in, knight b5, knight c3. What just happened? All of a sudden, things have started to go wrong. And Nihal starts to get a bit worried here. h4. Well, maybe he has this plan of h5, knight h4, knight to b5. Gukesh making the moves that matter here. Knight c3 coming in. e2 is weak. Nihal has to do something drastic. The position was equal within 2 moves. Everything has changed. He tries to get his bishop back in time to control the c3 square with bishop d2, but knight jumps in. Nihal gets his bishop to f1. Now d4. Bishop goes back and bishop e6. Oh, this b3 pawn is tremendously weak, and then the a pawn just runs through. Nihal is lost here, but he needs to find some counterplay, and that counterplay will exist on the king side, perhaps with some sacrifice on h6. He plays e3. Gukesh goes queen d5, attacking the knight and the pawn. The knight goes back to h2. Now takes the pawn, pawn takes pawn, and he chops off on h6. Now taking this bishop could be risky. As white gets in, the knight could jump in, checks here. So maybe it's best to ignore that and start pushing your a pawn. How easy is that for Gukesh? Well, he has 1 minute to work this out. Nihal down to his last 6 seconds. And Gukesh, I think, calming himself down because he's very close to victory now. Queen d1. Ooh, lovely move. Lovely move. You can't keep the queen here. It's knight e2 check. Takes. Bishop comes back to c1 for Nihal. Well, he's a master of playing in the last few seconds. And now a4, a3, a2. Should we go start pushing there? Is the question. But I love how Gukesh is pausing a bit. He's not rushing in. He goes bishop e1, attacking the f2 pawn, because when you're winning, it's easy to play natural moves. Takes, check, king g2, and finds bishop e3. What a lovely move. Takes, and bishop goes to a4. He gives a check. King f1. Now this knight hardly has any space. King f7. He comes up with the king. Black also brings his king in. Bishop b2. No need to trade anything. You have the bishop pair. You have an extra pawn. And the plan is simple. Get your king in. h5. Bishop e6. He pushes g5. Takes. Knight takes. Check. And now should you take another pawn? Yes, he does. Check on e4. King moves to e5, attacking the bishop. The bishop goes back. Well, now Gukesh is 2 pawns up, and he saves everything by putting his bishop on b4. And the speed at which Gukesh is playing is amazing. And he starts pushing his g pawn. King e5. You can't trade the knight for the bishop. That would be a lost bishop endgame. Nihal somehow trying to stop all the pawns that he can. The black king is planning to enter in. Gukesh has 11 seconds. 7 seconds for Nihal. Will Nihal somehow trick his opponent? Ooh, bishop f7. That's a pin. g3. Takes the pawn g2 and the g pawn is queening. Nihal Sarin resigns. Gukesh wins the game. And what a nice game that was. Nihal playing his favorite opening, and here Gukesh is like, why didn't you take on f5, knight f5? And Nihal was like, yeah, I didn't like that position, so I came back to g2. And you see how these players are here. They can immediately pinpoint the key moment in any game. And what was very nice to see after this game is that after it got over, both Gukesh and Nihal got up together and walked, and Nihal, as always the gentleman, gives his best wishes to his opponent, and that's always wonderful to see. And the Gukesh arranging all the pieces, and I'm pretty sure for many years to come we will be seeing both of them clashing against each other for many games.
Yeah, it's got a struggle to win now. Bishop
All these years, ChessBase was a software that needed to be installed on your computer. But now, ChessBase has come up with a mobile app. It's called the ChessBase mobile app, and it is available both on Android and iPhone. With the app, you can now prepare against an opponent. You can get access to more than 11 million games in your database. You can create a new game, analyze it. The premium users get access to the fastest cloud engines, and then you can save your analysis. What's more is that the app is completely free. If you want to stay connected to serious chess preparation on the go, then the ChessBase mobile app is for you.